regular meeting of council for Monday, July 23rd to order. Our first order of business this morning is our delegations, and our delegation this morning is Director Dan Rose and Director Leonard Hebert and Manager Crystal Brown, who's changed her hairdo today. Electoral area directors from the PRRD are our neighbors, and welcome. Good morning, you guys, and come on up. And
oh, thank you, Dan.
So I'd like to welcome both Dan and Leonard and Claire this morning to our council meeting. Obviously, over the last 3.5 years, the electoral area directors for D&E have been our neighbors to the community, and it's honestly, it's a real pleasure to have them here today, because I think it's the first time that they've been here, and we appreciate them taking the time to come in and present a topic that I know is near and dear to their heart. So the floor is yours.
No, it should be on.
Slide. Okay, well, thank you very much for allowing us to present to council. Probably, we should make a point of trying to get here annually, just even if we got nothing to talk about, just to say hello, but we haven't. Anyways, we're here to talk about planning today, and
Is that too dark? What's that?
His notes if they're all on.
Yes.
What did you want to say, Doug?
As you're aware, today we're here to speak to you about municipal participation in the planning function of the regional district. As you are aware, municipalities pay a portion of the regional district's budget, and the amount you pay is based on your requisition. The planning function, however, differs from other functions of the regional district, as it is the only function where Local Government Act allows municipalities to opt out of the service, either partially or completely. This is what we plan to speak to you about today. I'm Dan Rose. I'm the director of Area E, which is the area from basically the Kiskatna to Mount Lamore. With me is Claire Nagram, our acting general manager of development services, and Director Leonard Hebert from Area D. Today, Claire will tell you what planning is and how planning decisions are guided. I will speak to municipal participation in the regional district planning, what service that includes, what the funding structures look like in recent years, and perhaps look at some options to the future.
Excellent, thanks, Dan. So what is planning? Planning is systematic decision making that leads to informed action, which relates to use and development of land. Planning is an evolving process and is unique to every community. It envisions and shapes where people live, work, and recreate. For the regional district, the term community encompasses a variety of places, from established nodes such as Charlie Lake, Presbyteau, Moberly Lake, or Rolla, to more general rural areas such as Goodloe, Gundy, and Lone Prairie. The regional district is fortunate to have so many varied communities throughout our region, all with different wants, needs, and pressures unique to their situation. Examples of how planning guides growth, development, and change within these communities is through land use plans, policies, regulations, and guidelines, and these documents strive to balance the good of the residents, the community as a whole, the environment, and the economy. How is planning guided? Planning decisions at the regional district are guided by our official community plans, or OCP as I'll call it. An OCP is a statement of the long-term vision for a community and contains objectives and policies that guide planning and land use management decisions. Our OCPs are approved by the regional board and are referred to all municipalities and relevant agencies during their creation and adoption. To provide you with some context, here's a map of the regional district. The Peace River Regional District is the largest regional district in British Columbia and encompasses approximately 13% of the land mass of the province. Our planning area, however, only covers about 1/5 of that, totaling around 24,000 square kilometers. So when we speak to the planning function, that's the area that we're talking about. And now over to Dan.
Okay, municipal participation in planning. planning function includes only those items found within Part 14 of the Local Government Act, such as OCPs and zoning bylaws. Part 14 also allows municipalities to opt in or out of this function, completely or partially. This allowance is made in order to encourage agreements between a municipality and regional district regarding the level of participation in electoral area planning. The intent is to promote the creation of joint planning areas on boundaries adjacent to municipalities. Municipal participation in planning is based on the view, our municipal participation is based on the view that planning benefits all areas, not just the electoral areas for which plans are developed. Good planning benefits the region as a whole. This is particularly relevant in urban fringe areas. Decisions about planning are seen as a general responsibility of the board rather than an operation or management decision of the participants. We are not here to say that municipal participation in planning is a bad thing. However, we believe that our current regional structure is not functioning well because rural residents are underrepresented at the regional board, and municipalities are paying to make decisions in areas where their interests are unaffected. What we are proposing is that you consider what area of our regional district affects your municipality regarding land use. We would like to see our jurisdictions work together to come to an agreement regarding this area of influence. Levels of participation. For your consideration, we have put together some examples of different participation structures. Is this same slide?
This slide is missing.
Okay.
So we're just gonna-
Full participation is what you currently have. That means that Dawson Creek representative at the regional board votes on land use decisions over the regional district's entire 24,000 square kilometer planning area. Under a partial participation model, the city could decide what area you feel is the most important to you to have decision-making influence over. This could look like however you like, and the amount you pay would represent the assessment share for that area. And with no participation, if you so decide, you spend no additional dollars, but would not be able to vote on Part 14 land use decisions in the regional district. Land use items within Part 14 of the Local Government Act. This is a list of what decisions I mean when I talk about Part 14 land use planning. What we see most often in the regional district are amendments to our official community plans and zoning bylaws, as well as temporary use permits and development variance permits. This table provides some recent history regarding municipal participation in regional district planning. Dawson Creek has been fully opted in since 2001, and prior to that participated at 50%. During these presentations to municipalities, we are providing different participation options for consideration. Some of these examples include full participation based on OCP areas or by fire protection areas, or fully opting out. We will go over these examples for you. As a reminder, the amount of participation you decide will determine how much you pay to the regional district each year, and this decision could help reduce the tax burden on your residents. As you can see in this slide, the current requisition split is one of the reasons the issue has come up. Electoral areas of the PRD pay 2/3 of the requisition for the total planning requisition in the regional district, but at the board are only represented by 1/3 of the votes. Now we can go over a few options. Option 1 is the current participation level of 100%. This is your current level of participation. This means that Dawson Creek representative at the regional board votes on land use decisions over the regional district's entire 24,000 square kilometer planning area. In 2018, this cost you, your taxpayers, $52,920. Option 2 we have provided is for the South Peace Fringe Area Official Community Plan Area. This covers an area of nearly 1,000 square kilometers surrounding Dawson Creek and Puscoopi, and would cost the city $10,500 to participate, an 80% cost savings for the city. Option 3 we have provided is for the Dawson Creek and Poos fire protection areas. This covers an area of 200 square kilometers and would cost the city $2,400. Finally, option 4 is for zero participation, which would be zero cost for the city. Moving forward, we've outlined the next steps in this process as they relate to you, and the first step is for you to discuss the topic and the following options and decide if and how you would like to participate in planning decisions. If you decide not to change your current level of participation, then no further action is required. Should you like to consider a partial participation model, then that decision would have to be made by August 31st in order to take effect for the 2019 budget year. If this is the case, we would like to meet with you and determine what the partial participation model would look like and cost. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this to your attention, and I will take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dan. Claire? Questions for our guests? Anyone? Councillor Javetkov?
So these options are all based on area, the area proximity to the city?
Yeah, they are, and furthermore, they're just examples. I mean, if you guys have a different idea on areas of interest, we just picked some convenient borders that we had maps for. Like, we do have maps that define where the OCPs are and where the fire protection areas are. But if there's other areas of interest that you guys, that the council feels that they would like to have influence over, certainly all of them can be entertained. But these were considered just examples. And Part 14 of the Local Government Act, basically, I would say in my interpretation of it anyways, and it states it fairly clearly, was to promote joint planning areas on urban fringe areas. And those are the areas that are most affected by the municipal, or, you know, you have joint interests in with your electoral area and your municipalities. So I think that we're unique in the way that our makeup as a regional district is quite unique. Nobody else is like us. Nobody else's tax structure is this, our requisition levels are the same as what we are. So it's an interesting, it's just something we haven't looked at for a while, and we feel like when we talk with our rural constituents, there are some current concerns over whether we really have we're really accountable for the decisions that we make out there, because we're not the ones that make those decisions. It would be kind of like, I compare it to, it'd be like Fort St. John City Council coming down here and voting on your land use decisions, and outvoting you on them. That's the way we look at it.
So, just a follow-up, so right now, the mayor as the director is eligible to vote on any issue in the regional district, which includes, you know, Charlie Lake or Hudson Hope or any of that area. So if we opted for an area that was in closer proximity to the city, would our participation financially be calculated based on the percentage of area that we're interested in as related to the whole regional district?
Short answer, yes. So the example we gave would be a substantial reduction in what your cost would be, because right now you're paying for the total thing, the total.
And the requisition, how the requisition works is a requisition to the PRRD budget. It doesn't flow from our taxation that we collect and then flow through there. It's a direct requisition through the PRRD by our residents on our assessment to the RD for this function. Same as 911, same thing.
Actually, the difference between it and 911 is this is optional.
Yeah. So I guess it was just from the financial perspective of how the requisition works. Councillor Schumann?
So we could choose to say only participate in Area E and Area D that are surrounding areas, and not Area B and Area C. We could choose to do that.
You could.
Yeah. Further questions? Absolutely, it was, when Dan and Leonard had talked about this presentation, they wanted to get out and talk about municipal participation in the planning function. I think it's very healthy, because it's certainly something that our council hasn't discussed, and hasn't had the conversation about. So certainly, I think it's very valuable for us to have the information, and now our council will have that discussion about the participation in planning and the impacts of that for our community, and how that influences decisions that are impacting our community in terms of infrastructure and impact on the community and all those things, and how and what we should be involved in. So I really appreciate the fact that you guys have taken the time to do this, to inform our council, and we'll bring it back and have that further discussion about it.
I thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'd just like to point out too that, and it may come up in your discussions, is we don't have the option of whether we opt in and out of planning for the entire regional district. We still have to participate. We don't have the option of, as electoral areas, opting in or out. So the only ones that have the options on this are the municipalities. Personally, I don't feel like I have any reason to be participating in planning in Presbyterian, but it's not an option. So I would, of course, defer to the director of the area at the time for guidance on it. But municipalities do have the option of where and whatever they want it to look like.
Councillor Schuman?
So when I sit at the board table at the regional district as the alternative to the mayor, I often do the same. I will listen to the directors from the area that is affected to hear from them how it would affect their residents or whatever. And lots of times I defer to whatever it is that the community, the area wants, the area representative wants there. But obviously there's other things that I don't defer to, so.
Yeah, and so certainly I'll close off with the fact that, sitting there as a director on the board representing the community, to me there's so many aspects to planning that impact our community, and infrastructure and demands on services and implications of all of those things that impact our community. And so those are all those factors within the OCP and zoning and use and all of that development that goes on. And so, as I say, that's all kind of considerations for me and the community that you look at in terms of how that impacts our community and the services that we provide and jointly provide then to our rural neighbors. So, anyway, thanks so much. We really appreciate the fact you guys have taken the time to do this and inform and help provide some information to our council that I think is worthwhile conversation and discussion we need to have.
Well, thank you again, and we look forward to actually coming back and anytime that you guys feel that there's things that you need to talk with us about, we'll be happy to come and talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leonard. So, councillor business. New councillor business. Anybody? Councillor Wilbur?
Just want to congratulate Mile Zero Cruisers for another great show and shine and event, but also to Jeremy Linkletter and the Dare to Dream Society put on a great music festival. It's great to see lots of the community out there. I did not try the water slide, but people looked like they were enjoying it. And so congratulations to them. I know it takes a lot of work and a lot of volunteers to put all this stuff together, and we're very fortunate in our community to have such a great pool of people. So congratulations to both groups.
Thank you. Councillor Schmidt?
Yeah, so Councillor Wilbur and I are just home from our meetings in Prince George for the North Central Local Government Association. It was really great to catch up with all of our colleagues from across the north and hear about what's happening in their areas. And one thing that just comes to my mind specifically, I mean, we did talk a lot about caribou and all sorts of things, but our neighbors in Mackenzie have been talking a lot about the spruce beetle outbreak that has been going on for the last couple of years, and he brought it to our attention to pay attention when we were coming home from Prince George to have a lookout for all of the affected spruce through the Pine Pass, and so I did that, and there's a lot of it, a lot of red spruce throughout that Pine Pass, which is coming this way. And the other thing that he brought to our attention was the fact that because of these timber I don't know what it all is because I'm not a forestry person, but they're literally taking the wood out of Mackenzie, the infected wood out of Mackenzie, shipping it out over to Vanderhoof, shipping it out over to Chetwynd, and this infected wood is actually transporting these spruce beetles even further than what they would be transporting themselves. And so I think it's something we ought to be concerned about in our area, and maybe we could, when we get to UBCM in September, have a little chat with whoever's responsible for that, letting these bugs be packed back and forth across the region like that. It was just something that really grabbed my attention in that meeting and then driving home yesterday.
Good, thank you. Further councillor business? Minutes of a regular meeting of council of June 25th for adoption. Councillor McFadden, Councillor Wilbur. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Any business arising out of the minutes? Correspondence 6.1. We have a letter from Amy Vinot from VNO Consulting regarding local government emergency management consulting. Councillor Schumann.
For information.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Javetkov. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. 6.2, we have a letter, email from Kathy Peters, anti-human trafficking educator regarding child sex trafficking. I think we've had a number of pieces of correspondence on this. Councillor
For
Javetkov.
information.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Schumann. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 6.3, we have a letter from Mayor McTeddy of the Village of Pooskoopi regarding a request to amend a water agreement. Duncan, do you want to speak to this just quickly?
Sure. So through your worship, we have an agreement with the Village of Poos to provide them potable water. Within that agreement, it stipulates that there will be no bulk water sales, and they're not allowed to allow the sale of bulk water independently. We currently charge Poos $1.68 per cube, plus an infrastructure charge, and we charge our rural residents $2.90 a cube, which includes a infrastructure charge within that.
Thank you. And we are, the plan is that we're going to be reviewing the water bylaw this year, and that's part of the review. So, Duncan?
And just one final point, through your worship. I don't know that there is a large contingency of rural residents that aren't getting water. I think this could shift the demand from our station to maybe a new station that would be closer, but I don't believe that a new water station would create new demand out in the rural area.
Councillor Schumann?
And with this, so to sell bulk water to residents of Area D, does that, and could that include for industry sales of bulk water?
Yeah, so through your worship, I'm not certain exactly how it would be set up. I mean, through our system, we only allow commercial haulers for residents to access the Alaska Booster, and then we provide another option, but we monitor that. We can tell through quantity essentially what things are being used for. Somebody would have to monitor that to make sure that happened from Poos if we were to allow this.
We certainly haven't looked at this from the perspective of what the original intent was of providing Pooskoopi with our water, but it would be my assumption we put it in there that they couldn't sell it because we don't want to put additional burden on that system of trying to then provide even more water out there for them to sell to rural residents. And then how do we manage that infrastructure we're doing here for the whole region for the sale of water? And the other piece of it, as I say, is we are looking at the water bylaw, the rates and all of that later this year. So, Councillor Javetkov?
It seems appropriate that we would include this aspect with our review.
Yeah.
We haven't considered it before, as far as I know, and there are some advantages to rural residents as far as costs for hauling water and that type of thing. So could we add it into the review as to get some information on the pros and cons?
Sure. And
Is
I
that a
think that's
motion?
entirely appropriate for us to build this into the review of the water rate bylaw. in terms of how we handle the distribution of our water.
Would you like to make that as a motion?
Yeah, I'll make
Okay.
that as well.
Second? Further discussion? Duncan?
So through your worship, council will see that water rate review late November, early December, just with the timing of everything that's taking place. We're working on it right now. It's a big piece of work. We've been between CFOs. We have Flavia here today, our new CFO. And so, yeah, that'd be late November, early December.
So that was an appropriate time to ask who was going to be doing that for us and introduce our new CFO, which I neglected to do out of the gate, and I apologize to that, but Flavio is our new CFO, just started last week. And so it's a pleasure to welcome you to Dawson Creek and to the city of Dawson Creek, and we're excited to have you here. And maybe would it be appropriate just for council just to give a little background for Flavia to introduce herself?
Yes.
Put you on the spot.
Because you're going to have to speak at some point.
Thank you. Yes. It's been a pleasure to join the team here, and I was previously the CFO at Mackenzie, the district of Mackenzie. Prior to that, I worked for Canfor, also in Mackenzie, and before coming to Canada, I used to work for the Coca-Cola Company and also 2 agencies of the United Nations and Ernst & Young. So it's been a great opportunity to be here in Dawson Creek. Thank you.
Well, we're very excited you've joined us, and we appreciate that you've made us your choice for the future for you and your family, and welcome.
Thank you.
Back to the motion, sorry.
Was there
Further discussion on the motion that we refer to our water rate review. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Just throw my hand up for anything.
6.4, we have a letter from Connie Patterson, Dawson Creek and District Exhibition Association, regarding a request for approval of a liquor licensing. Councillor Schumann?
Through yourself, your worship, to staff, is this liquor licensing, I was noticing the numbers and had questions about the numbers, and I was curious to know if this is a standard. Is this standard for what they ask for? Has this changed? Is there anything new? 6.4, yes, we're on 6.4.
Duncan?
So through your worship, we actually found out after getting this on the agenda that this permit has actually already been approved. We were sent the approval from the liquor inspector, and the numbers included within this permit were approved as is. These numbers are a little bit higher from my recollection, but they're fairly close. But yeah, they are a little bit higher, and this is vetted through the RCMP and the liquor inspector based on their experience at the grounds and during the event. And in previous years, some of these numbers have been a little bit lower, and they've brought up areas of concern that apparently have been addressed, and that's why the numbers are what they are today.
Thank you. So we need a motion, Councillor Javeco?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Schumann. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Welcome, Councillor Rogers. Welcome home.
Oh, thank you.
Good to see you. 6.5, we have a letter from Nicole Silveria, Area Manager for Driver Licensing for ICBC. Request for permission to use a portion of the arena parking lot for motorcycle licensing. Duncan?
Yeah, so just one quick note. July 24th, this space is not available. It's being utilized by the curling club. They have a event with Douglas Lake, or John Deere, sorry, I believe. So it is not available on that day.
So our motion to approve would be based on if they do, with the exception of the July 24th date from administration. Councillor Schumann?
Would there be another parking lot that would suffice?
So through your worship, we've spoken to the group. They have painted the lines on this particular spot. That's why they've submitted this request. They're aware that the area is already scheduled or booked. But yeah, there's other parking lots, and we can direct them to other areas even within that zone where they could use, maybe closer to where the old library used to be or something along those lines.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
So I'd like to move that and also then direct staff to talk to them about another location for July 24th.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Schumann, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 6.6, we have a letter from the Dawson Creek Senior Canucks regarding a request for sponsorship for the Dawson Creek Senior Canucks hockey team. Councillor Schumann.
First, through you to staff, could I ask what our sponsorship availability is? What do we got in there?
So through your worship, we're about close to $13,000 into our sponsorship of 25. Just the history on this particular sponsorship, council received it for information September 2017. However, we did waive some ice fees as they were leading into their tournament in Williams Lake in order to help them fund that trip. And prior to that, 2011, we paid for a mayor's message in their program. And that's the sponsorship that we had through council.
Thank you. Councillor Schumann.
I would move that we purchase a gold package for $1,000 from our sponsorship fund. I note that there's 5 season tickets available in that, and we have a policy where we can give those tickets away, and so that's a lot of hockey tickets I think that we could distribute throughout the hockey season to people who might not otherwise get to the game, and so I think it would be $1,000 would be worthy of sponsorship.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Wilbur, discussion? Councillor Rogers and Councillor Wilbur.
I won't be voting in favor of it. I would have received it for information. If the goal is to give tickets away to the citizens of Dawson Creek, then we should do that. I believe that the arenas are already heavily subsidized by the taxpayer for their benefit. And if something like this comes up, then I would be saying to all of the other sports groups in Dawson Creek, please come to City Council and we'll have, they sponsored the Canucks for their season, so shouldn't they sponsor you for your season?
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur and then Councillor Schumann.
I think you already did that with other groups.
That was my comment.
But I do think it's a great opportunity with the half-page ad to also have that message from mayor and council in there and supporting our athletes. So I'm voting in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Schumann.
No, I was just going to say the same thing that you said.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councillor Javetkov.
I totally agree with Mark.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Opposed, Councillors Javetkov and Councillor Rogers. Item 7, reports. Report number 18099 from the Deputy Director of Corporate Administration regarding our Community Awards policy. Councillor Wilbur.
That report number 18-099 from the Deputy Director of Corporate Administration regarding Community Awards policy be received. Further, that the policy be approved pending the required 30-day review period.
Thank you. Second, Councillor McFadden. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 7.2, we have report 18108 from the Building Inspector regarding 10425 17th Street remedial action. Councillor Javetkov.
Move that report number 18-108 from the building inspector, re 10425 17th Street, remedial action be received. Further, that remedial action is taken to the satisfaction of the building inspector no later than August 27th, 2018. Further, that notifications be given pursuant to Section 77 of the Community Charter section, and further that staff notify the owner that the time limit for the request for reconsideration by council as per Section 78 of the Community Charter must be received in writing at City Hall no later than noon on August 13th, 2018.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Schumann. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.3, report number 18110 from the project manager regarding our truck waste receiving facility rates and agreement. Councillor Schumann.
Move report number 18110 from the project manager regarding trucked waste receiving facility rates and agreement be received. Further, the council approve the recommended rate of $17.85 meter square. What is that? Cubes. A cube rate for domestic sewage and inorganic waste disposal, and direct staff to receive the disposal rates within 1 year, and further that council approve the attached truck waste discharge agreement as presented and delegate authority to the city's authorized signatories to enter into this agreement with interested parties.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? Duncan?
Through your worship, this is great news. We're going to be opening up our new truck waste facility. A lot of work has gone into this rate. Originally it was $7. This is going to be an increase. However, based on our formula and based on the market, we think that it should not discourage people from utilizing the facility. And now we have the ability to accept new customers. So we're now open for business. We've been limited for a number of years just based on the existing infrastructure. So good news story.
And because it is a brand new facility and it's really the operating costs and all of that aspect of the future of understanding, is this rate appropriate and realistic? So that's the review that will take place within a year, just to ensure that it's appropriate and we can review it?
Yeah, so through your worship, we put the rate within agreements and not in a bylaw just yet. We've had to make some assumptions on use, assumptions on revenue, assumptions on operational costs. Now, those assumptions have a lot of background behind them, but over the course of the year, that may change a little bit, and we'd like to review it within a year.
Good. Thank you.
I really like the fact that we're considering the replacement cost of it as well.
Yeah, it's a great analysis and a bit of work, and gives us the opportunity to get it operating, provide the service that it was intended to do, protect our infrastructure, and have the ability to build that into our rates for the long term for replacement. Councillor Javetka?
I think it's important for people to realize that this is a facility that was built partly as a need for the entire region. There was no other options for the whole region to dispose of this material, so it's a benefit to the entire area.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think there's our previous guests at the delegation, the regional district, I think gave us $500,000 to help with the engineering of it, although it was a $5 million facility approximately. In terms of construction, it's certainly exactly that. It's a facility for the region, and domestic effluent, there is no other alternative. You can't haul it to those industrial or commercial facilities like Tervita or Secure. Those, they can't take residential or commercial type of effluent. So it is very good.
Yeah, and we clean it up a little bit and sell it back too. So.
That's the other side of it. Any further discussion?
The rest of the story.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have report number 18111 from the Development Services Manager regarding a development permit for 1803 for the Shane Allen offices. Councillor Rogers.
I'll move the report number 18-111 from the Development Services Manager regarding the development permit application 18-03 be received. Further, that the development permit number 18-03 regarding Allen offices 928 103rd Avenue be approved and the permit be issued.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Schumann. Discussion?
I know a little bit of the history on this one. I appreciate staff working very hard on getting this permit to us so that facility can start being built.
So folks out there that are watching, this is going to be a new office building across the street from where their offices currently are located, I believe, across from Dr. Bone, the old Dennis Mitchell offices in that Phillips Uniglobe Trout. So it's really great to see some more development going on downtown.
Some infill.
Yeah. Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, that piece of property, I mean, it was the old McLeod's and the old K Corral, and then there was the big fire, and it's been sitting there looking like crap ever since that, so I think this is awesome.
Yeah. Good news. Any further discussion, question? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.5, we have report number 1812 from the Development Services Manager regarding requests for proposals for the Dawson Creek zoning bylaw review, development of downtown and city guideline results. Councillor Wilbur?
I'll move that report number 18-112 from the Development Services Manager regarding request for proposals 2018-25, Dawson Creek zoning bylaw review and development of downtown and city guidelines. Results be received for that council award RFP 2018-25 Dawson Creek zoning bylaw review and development of downtown and city guidelines to Urban Systems for $109,436 plus GST.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor McFadden, discussion? Duncan?
Through your worship, I'll just ask Alex for maybe an update on the OCP process, where we're at. From there, you get.
Through your worship, we received comments back from the ALC a couple weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, and we will have a report to you for the August 20th meeting, just basically summarizing all of the comments from external agencies. Yep, we're moving along, and it should be wrapped up pretty quick here.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Schumann?
So I noticed that we had budgeted $120,000 for this, and it came in at $109,436. The extra, I mean, will that get eaten up in this, or there's extra that could be put back into our flood risk management fund?
Duncan?
Through your worship, we're always hesitant to reallocate those funds at the beginning of the process, but as we work our way through, as long as there's no unforeseen or areas that need to be addressed, council's direction is any remaining funding goes into flood mitigation.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.6, we have report number 18115 from the Development Services Manager regarding our non-medical cannabis community engagement results.
I'm all froze up.
Councillor Schumann?
Sorry.
Got it on here.
No, I got it. I'm just scrolling like a maniac.
Do it. Can you share?
Did I?
Share.
Sorry. Sorry for the delay. I had it and then it went away. Oh, do I really have to? I might need my glasses for this one. Or Shaylee's glasses. Holy. Okay, so I move that report number 18115 from the Development Services Manager regarding cannabis community engagement results be received. Further, the staff be directed to prepare draft bylaw amendments and policies based on the following. Individuals will be allowed to grow a maximum of 4 indoor or outdoor cannabis plants, which must not be visible from public spaces. Point 2, retail stores will be permitted to sell non-medical cannabis in commercial zones that are 150 meters from schools, youth facilities, parks, and playgrounds, and an appropriate distance from other non-medical cannabis retail stores. Point 3 is smoking and vaping will be allowed in public spaces except areas frequented by children, including, and this is the part where they're not allowed to smoke, is community parks, playgrounds, trails, sports fields, and at special public events, like our little music in the park there. Smoking and vaping will not be allowed within 7.5 meters around public entrances, windows, air intakes, and business entryways that are not meant for the public, i.e. laneway, doors, and loading docks. And the last point is licensed commercial producers will be allowed to grow on M2 industrial light and M3 industrial heavy zoned land outside of the agricultural land reserve within appropriate residential land use setbacks.
Second, Councillor Wilbur, discussion?
Thank you.
Councillor
I'll be voting against the motion. We had a public meeting and there were a number of concerns raised about smoking marijuana in public, and I don't see it reflected in here at all. This hasn't changed from the original as far as I can see. So, you know, there's a reason that we have public meetings, and when we get feedback, it should be considered, it should be reflected in some changes. So, I know what your concerns are about enforcement, and to me, You know, we have, you can't use liquor in public places, and there is an enforcement level that's attached to that, and it applies to this as well. I mean, it's a cost of doing business. If we accept smoking marijuana in public places just because we don't want to pay for the enforcement, I don't think that's the right reason. So I'll be voting against it.
Thank you. Councillor Schuman.
Yeah, so obviously we did a lot of consultation on this. We had the survey, we've had the meeting, we've heard a lot from our community, and the public meeting was just one of those things. I'm not exactly sure who people think that are pot smokers. Like I mean, the people I know that smoke marijuana are not people that are going to be running around downtown blowing it into people's faces and acting. I mean, there's always going to be that person. There's always going to be. But I am going to vote in favor of this, and I think that we have consulted with our community, and we've heard loud and clear from them about what they feel is important to have in our community.
Thank you. Further discussion? Further comments? Anybody else have anything they want to add? This is a significant aspect in terms of change to Canada, in terms of a impact on what we've traditionally saw over our lifetime as illegal. And on October 17th, it's going to become legal, and for all of us to shift that mindset of saying, okay, now it is legal, it's a legal entity, it's a legal product, it's a legal commodity that's going to be allowed to be sold and consumed and produced and all of that. And as Councillor Javetkov has said, through the process, for me, that's been the shift in mindset in terms of having now this product that's going to be consumed legal. And for us, we need to put these processes in place to ensure that we respect the laws of Canada now, I think, and some of the aspects around that, and zoning and consumption around children and all of those things. The aspect to me that I still feel is going to be a significant one for all of us in every municipality is the shift from those who are opposed to the use and consumption of it. And the federal government are going to have their revenue that's going to go through for folks, and the provincial government I see have already set their revenues in place for licensing and annual renewals of fees for dispensaries. And for us, the only place that we're going to be able to, and we will be at the local level, the ones dealing with the enforcement of anyone who has a concern about it by a resident in the community through our bylaw enforcement. And the only place we generate any revenue is through our business license. And the significance of that additional demand on what I believe will be attention to our bylaw enforcement officers is one that I worry about. And but I still believe in Canada it's legal, in BC it's legal, in our community it'll be legal. And how do we ensure that we find a way to maneuver our way down to that road now of legalization of non-medical use marijuana? And I'm not going to download additional, I'm not certainly in favor of downloading additional restrictive components around things that are legal in British Columbia to make them illegal in our community, and then our residents are going to have to pay for the enforcement of it. Councillor Roy.
Yeah, it's a start. You got to start somewhere, and it can be amended, it can be changed as well as we move along. It's,
Doctor?
Through your worship, just talking timing-wise, so we have awarded the RFP. They will begin updating the bylaws. There's a number of bylaws, 6 or 7 bylaws that need to be updated. Council will see that first August 20th. Some of them, the zoning in particular, will require some public hearing process, and then you'd be up for adoption in September, provided that we don't receive feedback or there are no changes. It's expected that the portal through the provincial government will be accepting applications in August, which means council may receive some requests from individuals wishing to open dispensaries, as they need local government's blessing before they can receive a license. And our recommendation would be that the earliest that happens would be September, if the bylaws and if all of these things align. Otherwise, we're working our way through the process.
It's illegal until October 17th.
Correct.
And so we're going to put the necessary stuff in place to ensure that our municipality, through our various bylaws that we need to amend and make sure are in place by that time frame. I think August 20th is our date for our first bylaw reading, and hopefully we're finished by mid-September to end of September to ensure we're there for that time frame. Councillor Wilbur, then Councillor Duetta.
And I just want to add that staff has set up to reach out again to the community at the Fall Fair, and we'll be there to kind of let them know where we're at, and if people have questions or more information or opinions, I guess that they'll have the opportunity to give that. And I don't know exactly which bylaw or which resolution it is from NCLGA, but Councillor Schumann and I were just double checking with each other, but I do believe that there is a resolution coming forward to UBCM from NCLGA members saying that the proportion for communities off that revenue should be higher. So that's happening as well.
Thank you. Councillor Duetta.
I just wanted to clarify my concern. I appreciate the fact that it's legal. I'm not contesting the fact that it's legal. Drinking alcohol is legal as well. It's the way that it's managed. We don't allow drinking alcohol in public places. And in my opinion, I don't think we should be allowing smoking marijuana in public places. It's very similar in my mind. So I just wanted to clarify. I'm not concerned about it being legal or not legal. I know it's legal. I know it's going to be legal, because I've read it in the paper. It's the way that it's handled in the city.
And I certainly appreciate that. My comments weren't at all directed towards that. It's about the mindset of our residents and community who are opposed to that component. And as it relates to public consumption, I think we enhanced the smoking bylaw in our community from 3.5 meters to 7.5 meters from public entrances and our walking paths and our parks and where children are present. And I think that gives me more confidence in terms of how we can and do have a bylaw within our smoking bylaw that will certainly have and take consideration of public consumption of cannabis, marijuana in our community, because you can't consume it in a public space where it's restricted by smoking. And so, from my view, I think we've already done some work in that regard. Further discussion?
A lot of work.
Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Councilor Duetta. How are we doing for time? You guys okay, or do you want to take a 5-minute break? Yes? We'll take a 7-minute break, please.
We'll never refuse a break.
On to item 7.7. We have report 18118 from the Deputy Chief Financial Officer regarding our 2018 property tax collection. Councilor Rogers?
Thanks. It's an easy one. That report number 18-118 from the Deputy Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2018 property tax collection be received for information.
Thank you. Second to Councilor Wilbur. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
We're not too sore necks and legs right now.
7.8, we have report 18120 from the airport manager regarding request for proposals for the 2018-19 airport runway extension. Councilor McFadden.
I make the motion that report number 18-120 from the airport general manager regarding request for quotations 2018-19 airport runway extension engineering be received. Further, that council award the contract to Avia NG for $95,430, excluding GST, to complete the engineering services and public consultation process for the runway extension.
Thank you. Seconded. Councilor Wilbur. Discussion. Councilor Schumann.
So I note that it is This is for 95,430. What did we have budgeted for that through you to staff?
Through your worship, it was budgeted at 200,000, I believe, Patrick? Yeah, 200,000. So the remaining amount would go into the flood mitigation at the end of the project,
Thank you.
if that's your question.
That was, I mean, I was going there,
Thank-
but you know
thank
me
you.
too well.
Further discussion on the motion? Councillor Rogers?
I can't support it. You guys all know more.
We know.
I was waiting for you.
I'll keep it that short. McFadden, I don't hear what I'm gonna say.
Thank you.
We always want to hear what you
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
sorry.
Carried.
You
Oh!
voted in favor? I saw it. I
no,
saw
heavy
it.
side.
He voted in favor.
Can we rewind that?
I'm sure it's on
Can
the
we-
camera.
Can we redo that, please? All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank
Carried. Opposed, Councillor Rogers.
you. Holy cow.
Get too excited.
7.9, we
I was
have
too
report
excited to get my hand.
18121 from the Deputy Chief Financial Officer regarding our 2018 annual risk update. Councillor Wilbur?
That report number 18-121 from the Deputy Financial Officer regarding annual risk update 2018 be received for information.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Schumann, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 710, report 18123 from the Utilities Manager regarding a request for quotations for the 2018-26 aerial work platform. Councillor Schumann?
I move report number 18123 from the Utilities Manager regarding request for quotations 2018-26 aerial work platform be received. Further, that council award RFQ 2018-26 to Zuma Lift Services Incorporated for $142,042.50 plus GST.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Wilbur, discussion? Councillor McFadden?
What is aerial work?
Duncan?
Through your worship, aerial work is anything overhead, but essentially in the arenas, you're putting up netting along the back of the boards. In the event center, you're changing lights up in some of those higher area. You can use it somewhat outside, but a lot of the work is interior, and it's just reaching those places. Putting, the wood, decorative wood in some places like Calvin Crook Center, the very heavy panels, so it's dropping those boards down to work on equipment that's hidden above. All kinds of different things.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So that gets us through reports. Item 8, bylaws 8.1. Report 18106 from the Development Services Manager regarding our sign regulation bylaw 4369. 2018 additional comments. And 2018 for consideration of third reading as amended. Councillor Wilbur.
I will move that report number 18-106 from the Development Services Manager regarding the sign regulation bylaw number 4369, 2018 be received. Further, that the sign regulation bylaw number 369, 2018 be given third readings as amended.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Schumann. Discussion? Councillor Wilbur.
I just want to say thank you to staff for putting in the extra time and the extra work and allowing for further information to come in. And I really appreciate Alex and all the work that she put into this. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Report 18113 from the Development Services Manager regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 4282, 2018. Councillor Schumann?
Your Worship, I'm claiming conflict as this person is my employer.
Okay.
I move report number 18113 from the Development Services Manager regarding zoning amendment 18-03, bylaw number 4382, 2018 be received. Further, that the zoning amendment bylaw number 4382, 2018 be given first and second readings, and further that staff be directed to publish the required notice for a formal public hearing.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Rogers. Discussion? Councillor Schumann?
So one thing that I was thinking about was this property used to be a gas station, and what are there any risks, like with regards to contamination that might be on that site, and how do we as a city look at that?
Duncan?
So through your worship, I'll ask Alex to address that.
Through your worship, so anytime a property is subdivided, rezoned, development permit, or soil removal, you have to do a site profile. And the site profile will trigger uses like the gas station that was on it. So that was done through the process. It was sent to the ministry. The ministry deemed this a contaminated site, but in the letter stipulated that the property could be rezoned and subdivided, and no further applications could be processed after that until site remediation was complete. If the property was to be sold, the owner of the property is legally entitled to, or legally obligated to declare that this is a contaminated site because it is on the provincial registry as a contaminated site. So after this rezoning and subdivision, no further applications will be processed until it is remediated.
Thank you. Councillor Schumann?
So then so what I'm thinking is if the store is moved back off that contaminated site, then is it just going to turn into another one of our brown spaces with the fences around it, or like how? I mean, I know that it can't be sold, or it can't be developed, or it can't be anything until it's remediated. So, like that, there's nothing we can do about this. Like it's just going to sit there as a brown space now.
So through your worship, our understanding is this rezone is a bit of a step in moving something forward on this property. Alex, I don't know if you want to share exactly what the plan is, but the rezone is to open up opportunities from C6 refuel and essentially a convenience store, and as a C3, I think there's about 37 different uses permitted in that zone, from cafes to miniature golf to tire sales. So they're opening up those opportunities, but some work has to happen before they could move forward.
Your worship, the owner is working to remediate the site. It's just part of the steps in order to get there. The first is rezoning, then we will subdivide, and through that he's working on site remediation in order to further develop the property.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Report 8.3, we have Report 18114 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding the appointment of officers amendment bylaw number 4383, 2018. Councillor Rogers?
I move that report number 18-114 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding appointment of officers amendment bylaw be received. Further, that appointment of officers amendment bylaw 4383, 2018 be given the first 3 readings. Further, that the appointment of Kevin Henderson as the approving officer for the City of Dawson Creek be reaffirmed, and that Alex Wallace replace Devin Arrow as the alternate approving officer.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor McFadden, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.4, we have Report 18117 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding the Dawson Creek Park Dedication Amendment Bylaw 4381, 2018. Councillor Schumann?
I move report number 18117 from the Corporate Administrator regarding Park Dedication Amendment Bylaw number 4381, 2018 be received. Further, that as the corporate officer has determined and certified that the approval of electors has been obtained by less than 10% of the eligible electors submitting elector response forms, and that Dawson Creek Dedication Amendment Bylaw number 4381, 2018 be adopted.
Seconded. Councillor Wilbur, discussion? Duncan, just for clarification?
So through your worship, this is to amend the bylaw to remove a portion of the park on the west side of 8th Street, Brenda, in order to allow the city to sell that area of the park to the Ministry of Transportation.
This is in anticipation of the 8th Street Bridge project that's proposed to go ahead in 2019, and they require that additional property in order to facilitate the construction of that new bridge?
Correct.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great news, hopefully. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Report 18119 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding the land sale bylaw 4384 2018 to Her Majesty the Queen.
That's
Councillor Javekot.
I move that report number 18-119 from the Director of Corporate Administration read land sale Her Majesty the Queen bylaw number 4384 be received. Further, that the sale of the .62 acre portion of land adjacent to the west side of 8th Street for the purchase price of $12,550 plus all associated fees be approved. And further, that the city's authorized signatories be delegated the authority to enter into the agreement of purchase and sale with Her Majesty the Queen in right of the province of British Columbia as represented by the minister responsible for the Transportation Act. And further, that the land sale Her Majesty the Queen bylaw number 4384 2018 be given first 3 readings.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Schumann, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.6, we have report 18122 from the Deputy Director of Corporate Administration regarding our records management bylaw 4385 2018. Councillor Rogers.
I'll move that report number 18-122 from the Deputy Director of Corporate Administration regarding records management bylaw number 4385 2018 be received. Further, that the records management bylaw number 4385 2018 be given first 3 readings.
Councillor Wilbur, seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. That's through our bylaws, and now on to Mayor's business. Item 9.1. So as was mentioned earlier in the agenda, we did have our open house in regards to the upcoming changes to the cannabis bylaw, and really good, I think, interaction from the community and public, and really great discussion. And really appreciate the work that Alex and folks put into preparing for that. And again, I think it was just more of some very positive information that helps us, guide us in decisions and directions that we take on behalf of our community. And so I applaud Council for taking the time to come and engage in the community and in the evening and support the process of engaging. Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, and I was away on vacation, and I really appreciated the fact that I could go onto our website and watch the whole public meeting. So I wasn't there, but I certainly did hear everything that went on, and it was a pretty good meeting.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Rogers?
I'm going to have to apologize for not being there and not even watching it. I had that Northern Development Board meeting and a bunch of other things going on.
We'll forgive you.
You were working. I was on vacation. I felt obligated to watch the video.
Item 2,
Thanks,
we
you're
had Minister of Health, Minister Dix was here a few weeks ago and has made the announcement officially that they're going to move forward with the hospital project, the Dawson Creek and District Hospital project, to move it forward into the capital planning process for the provincial government. Really appreciate the fact that they've made that official in terms of moving it into the lineup for the government and approving the capital. And it's such an important facility. We've spent so much time and effort and energy, and it was so satisfying to hear the Minister of Health finally making an announcement that they're going to proceed with that project. And obviously it's such a big deal for our community and our region, for the long-term benefit of building community with, we always use that mantra, quality of life, and quality of life being health and happiness. And without that pillar of an effective, efficient health model and an acute care facility is the foundation of building a strong primary care model in our community. So it's a big deal, and I really appreciate the fact the Minister has moved it ahead.
It's a great start. Now we just got to get to the finish line.
Yeah. Item 3, we had at our last meeting, or a meeting a while ago, we announced that we were going to waive the pool fees for family and children at the pool for the summer. And so I reached out to a number of different folks to see if they might be willing to help support that initiative that council took and financially, and talked to my good friend Leanne at Verizon Midstream, and she happened to be in Calgary the morning I phoned her, and I was hoping they'd give us a couple $1,000 to help offset the costs. And Leanne said that's a great message. It fits within so much of our corporate mechanism in terms of how we support initiatives. So let me get back to you. And the next morning she phoned me and she said, Chris Roche, our Director of Business Development, has agreed, and they're going to give us $10,000. And so what a great message from industry and companies to support our community and in that regard. And so we had a check presentation a couple of weeks ago by Verizon, and Leanne come in and donated $10,000 towards the waiver of those fees and help offset the cost of those fees for us. And really want to express our appreciation to Verizon Midstream and now their parent company Pembina, who are going to be great partners and are great partners in our community, and thank them so much for that support.
Your Worship?
Yeah.
Through you to staff, maybe on that note, what kind of an uptake have we had on the free swim off the top of your head?
So through your worship, just looking at statistics, we've reviewed the July 2nd to July 19th date and compared them to the previous year. So in 2017 we had 263 family groups, so families access the pool. That group could be anywhere from 2 to 10 or 8, I think the bylaw states, and 962 youth. So from those two categories, 1,225 accessed, right? Groups accessing it. In 2018, 1,154 family groups and 723 youth, for a total of 1,877. So you're up from 1,225 in 2017 to 1,877 in 2018 over that 3-week period.
Thanks. Councillor Schumer?
And have we run into any issues? Has there been any problems at the pool, or like, is it, I mean, obviously they can't let too many people in at once or anything, but I've noted a couple of closures recently, and I'm just wondering if there's been any problems.
So through your worship, increased usage. In the past, maybe there has been less people in the lanes or in some of those areas, so there's increased usage. So people are just having to share lanes or share the pool a little more. So that's a significant increase. And I think those closures are a result of poop in the pool, fecal, code brown. Yeah. So there's code brown bear. Sorry. So we are working very hard with our patrons on some of the different types of strategies to stop that from happening. Go ahead, Barry.
If anything, it's a nice problem to be too busy at times, but creativity of what has now become the definition of family. Our front desk are seeing lots of creative ways how people determine the next door neighbor, but it's all good. Our staff have been very good with that and working with them, and it's good to see that the uptake is really very positive.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, we had the representatives from the Union of BC Municipalities and the Coalition of Child Care Advocates of BC here last week, I think, and did a presentation to Council on the $10 day care for the province, and giving Council an overview of the program and child care in the province and in our community in terms of the components around that childcare service and how it impacts so many different pieces of our community and economy and different things. It was very worthwhile, and really appreciate the ladies coming up to the Peace Country and taking the time to do a presentation and inform us, and certainly not looking for us as a community to take over childcare, but more to inform us and give us information and education on the aspect of childcare in our community, and really appreciate the fact that they took the time to do that. Councillor Schumann?
And out of that came some information, like for our viewers, there is funding available through the government to help people who currently run unlicensed daycares or are just, babysitting a few children in their homes. There's funding available, I think it was $4,500 available to those people if they wanted to upgrade their non-licensed facility into a licensed facility. And the benefit of being a licensed facility in BC now is that you can then pass on to your clients the subsidies, the daycare subsidies that are being provided. And you do have to be a licensed daycare in order to do that. And so I hope that a lot of people who are just doing it sort of casually in their home might want to take up the government's offer on that funds to become licensed daycare. We need more licensed daycares in Dawson Creek. So just some information.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur had mentioned about the Miles Zero Cruisers on the weekend, and what a great event continues to be, and I think it speaks to that, and as well as Jeremy and the music festival and that family fun event, and I think it demonstrates how important that event and sport tourism strategy is. That one weekend in our community has turned into a really significant event, and one that we build upon and look to enhance and support, and really appreciate all the effort of all the volunteers and all the business people who get in and support that. And I haven't heard the final numbers, but I know last year there was 450 entries into the car show and the event at the Kin Park that Jeremy does. It's just amazing how you see those volunteers put on an event that create really big economic opportunities for our community and the service sector and hotels and all of that stuff that goes on.
I could say a whole bunch.
So I want to say one thing. I was coming to City Hall the other day. It's not work. I was coming to City Hall the other day, and there was some what I looked to be older vandals on the grass at the Miles Zero Cairn, and I am the mayor, and so I thought I can't allow those vandals to be tromping that grass, and so I stopped, and there's about 40 or 50 of them all huddled around that cairn. And I tell them, get off the grass. It turns out they're tourists.
Not vandals.
But there they are in town for 2 days. Here is a caravan, and just more of that, how significant it is to, and they were talking about, you know what, they were here for 2 days, loved the community, and really appreciated the fact that they were having a really great time in our community and our city, and how important that aspect of tourism, that wheel traffic, is to our community. Because one of them said, do you have a trailer repair facility? Because we got a little bit of work to do. And somebody else was looking. So it's all that stuff that spins throughout your community, and really appreciate that factor. 9.2 we have on the agenda is a memo that I've had prepared, and we've had a couple of opportunities in engaging with our First Nations Treaty 8 neighbors. I've done presentations to, I think, 4 now, Soto, Prophet, Blueberry, and to Fort Nelson First Nation. And Soto were here, and we spent a day with them, community to community, council to council, about a month ago, or a month and a half ago maybe, and it was very positive. To me, the benefits of building community for us, whether it be in Dawson Creek, Prophet River, Fort Nelson First Nations, or Soto, it's the components as you visit those communities are similar to what we deal with. And they're important to build community for them on health and education and economic opportunities. And So we had a presentation last December from Urban Systems in regards to the creation of an urban economic development zones within our community and the benefits of doing that in terms of creating economic opportunities that benefit the community as well as our Treaty 8 neighbors. And so I've had some brief discussions now with Urban Systems, and I really want to now move that forward into developing an MOU. We call it a memorandum of understanding, an agreement, a partnership agreement with the Treaty 8 communities that have the interest in forging that relationship with us around health, education, and economic opportunities. And so I'd like to ask Council to support the following motion that Council direct staff to hire Urban Systems to create a policy that outlines a framework for future partnerships and collaboration on economic development initiatives between the City of Dawson Creek and the First Nations communities. Councillor Schumann, Councillor Wilbur, discussion. Councillor Rogers?
Yeah, I just think, like are we gonna have to direct staff to, well, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to. I'd like to have a conversation around creating an economic development zone. I know that we've talked about creating an economic development zone for our downtown and for the old K-Pac property, and this fits in with that. But are we kind of going in the right order, or should we be doing things at the same time?
So I think the first step to me is we got to create this document that in partnership with the Treaty 8 communities that have the interest in forging that relationship with us under working together on health initiatives, working on education initiatives, and working on economic development initiatives. And that partnership agreement then would outline that we are working together on those initiatives. And then we go down the road of saying if there is that interest of the Treaty 8 communities, that we look for those opportunities and develop feasibility studies and developing an urban economic zone that may fit within downtown or may fit within other areas of our community that would benefit our community as well as their communities. But I think we have to get an overarching document and agreement in place first to say that and have that agreement with our neighbors.
Just to say there's a need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Schumann?
I really love this, and I think that putting this in place, it would open things up for us to work more hand in hand with our First Nation neighbors and become partners with them. So I'm really excited about this. I think there's bright things in the future potentially.
I think, you know, honestly, the health component, and we've got now the South Peace Health Services Society, that's a society representative of all of our South Peace communities and rural neighbors, and I think there's a real opportunity there for us to engage with the Treaty 8 communities in that as well, because they talk about how difficult housing is one of the big issues within that strategy and within that document. And for them, they talk about how they come to Dawson Creek, their elders or their citizens for orthopedic surgery or to have their babies, and there they are having to stay in hotels for extended period of time, very expensive. And if we had a housing strategy within there, there's a big benefit to the Treaty 8 communities for that. So I just think there's so many initiatives we could undertake in partnership with them that would benefit our community and their communities, working in partnership around those three pillars that I think about are health, education, and economic development initiatives. Councillor Javetkov?
Just wondering if this motion in effect waives the financial policy, like direct hire to urban?
Well, so yeah, great question. Duncan?
So through your worship, you would be waiving our purchasing policy. There is some alignment. Urban Systems has worked on our OCP. Urban System is working on updating our policies and bylaws that reflect the OCP. And this, although not directly included in the OCP work, is something that falls along those lines, creating new partnerships. So you would be waiving the purchasing policy.
So
go ahead.
How do we control the, like if you're directed to hire Urban Systems, does that give them carte blanche to set whatever rate they want, or how do we control the cost?
Yeah, so through your worship, we set that scope of work. And we have comparisons. And I will note also that we do have some flexibility in the purchasing policy when it comes to consultants, and there's a threshold. I think it's $75,000 before it comes back to council, so you're well within that. However, we have we have that ability to gauge whether we're getting market value.
And I will say that I, having engaged them just in a kind of a broad scope of discussion right now and trying to set up some further things with them, that I'll bring that back to council in August once I've had some further discussion to give some scope of work and cost for council. It does fit within kind of our economic development budget. I don't know what we have left in there, and council does give that discretion for the policy of economic development to the mayor, but I'll bring it back. I'm not going to do it through there. I want to bring it back through council as a whole, and we will bring it back in our August meeting for scope of work and some estimate of costs for council. I want to, like, I guess what I'm asking for right now is to be able to start the work of developing this agreement because there's some aspects to it that are coming up very quickly that I'd like to pursue. Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, I'm trying to just formulate a whole bunch of words here. Through Northern Development, we have the $50,000 grant that we do get. That's supposed to be going towards a economic development officer or correct. So I'm thinking Brandon might be able to help me out here. There was a lot of discussion around that at our last meeting that we just recently had about tightening it up because it was kind of getting loose in the policy. And I think that this might actually fit into something like that. I'm not sure, so it might be worthwhile having staff look into it.
We'll explore that. Yeah, great point. Thank you. Councilor Wilbur?
I don't mind that you passed over me again, it's okay. I actually, what I wanted to say was I do remember Urban Systems doing a presentation to us on relationships with First Nations, and I think this goes a long ways and shows us as true leaders working with our neighbors on reconciliation. So I think this is a really good step in the right direction, and I'm agreeing with having Urban Systems because they've done a lot of work already with the First Nations and did bring us a presentation on having those conversations.
Thank you. Further discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. Also, as a result of, we had some discussion earlier about this, I put forward a memo in regards to waiving the pool fees for seniors and adults. So at our last meeting, when we waived the anticipated $20,000 for children and family, I got not a ton, but a fair amount of feedback from folks about for seniors and for adults, senior adults and stuff. And so in the interim, through that period of, I think I've got $15,000 in the lineup, the 10 from Verizon as well as another 5 from other sources, 1 confirmed and the other 4 that's on its way, we believe. And so I felt it would be appropriate for us. This has been a great test to me in terms of this pool and the use of the pool for the summer months for an outlet for that, what we heard very loudly at that public hearing about amenity in our community that's free, that doesn't cost anything. And so I'd like to bring forward this memo that we waive the pool fees for seniors and adults for till the end of August. By way of a motion.
So
Councillor McFadden?
So moved.
Seconded? Councillor Wilbur. Discussion. Councillor Rogers?
My concern is staff works really hard like this on, maintaining budgets regarding the net subsidy that goes to operate the pool. And my concern is by council now waiving fees, that all that's going to do is increase the net subsidy to that facility. Is that the direction that council wants to go? I'm not sure. If corporations want to cover that cost, I'm okay with that, but I'm not interested in subsidizing something that's already heavily subsidized. We're just putting another subsidy on top of subsidized.
Well, and so that was my point about now having covered off 15,000 of the 20 anticipated. And to me, the loss of the Rotary Lake was is a big message in our community, and we're going to look and explore options for the future of what that means to our community in the long term, and the impacts of that. To me, this summer has been a good test of that and for us, and by waiving the pool fees for children and families has helped to offset that. To me, the ability for us to now almost recover all of that cost so far in grants from folks, that we've got 15 of that 20. To me, I feel I'd like to waive those fees for seniors and adults for the remainder of the summer to get a full analysis of what does it mean to waive the fees for our community for the pool for the summer months without having Rotary Lake in place. And that was my thought.
Yeah, I'm totally okay if, like, for waiving those fees, as long as they're covered other, like, through corporate donations or any other way, rather than the taxpayer.
Well, and that's why, so to me, my point was, having raised 15 of the 20 already, we've covered off that first initiative that council took to waive for children and family. So we have covered off 75% of that already. So,
but my other concern is, okay, now we're setting a precedent. So now we're, as soon as we do that, then, you know, what? Okay, 2019 comes along and we go, and the citizens are all outraged because they don't get free swimming, and the corporate donations happen to dry up. Then it turns into a Rotary Lake, where the city didn't build Rotary Lake. That was done by the citizens of Dawson Creek through donations and stuff like that. But yet, when it comes around to Rotary Lake now, all of a sudden now the city of Dawson Creek is on the hook for the possible replacement of Rotary Lake, possible investment into Rotary Lake, and the possible maintenance of Rotary Lake. So my concern is that it's going to turn into a Rotary Lake at the pool, where the city's going to be offering free swimming because the precedent is set.
sure. Thank you. Councillor Wilbur, then Councillor Schumann.
Oh, no,
Councillor Schumann.
So thank you for going out and finding $10,000–$15,000 to cover this off. I also see this as a way to maybe get seniors and adults to the pool who haven't ever been there before. Maybe, you know, the free sign on the door might get a lot more people through the door that otherwise haven't used the facility. And then they're going to see what an awesome facility it is, the hot tub, the steam room, the lap pool. And I see it as a way, or as something that, you know, at the end of August, when the free sign comes off the door, there might be increased usage at the pool based on those people that hadn't been in there before and now maybe realize what a really great facility is. Also, just, you know, we're talking about Rotary Lake. I have been hearing nothing but great things from people about the little splash park down there. Young families are down there. They talk to me about how much they enjoy the splash park, how wonderful it is, how wonderful that there's a lovely playground there, the big trees for shade. And, you know, like, I oftentimes I think to myself, like, that's what people like that facility for, is, you know, the meeting, the shade, the beautiful park, the little splash park, and you know, the young moms are saying it's such a relief not to have to worry about, you know, it's a splash park, they're safe, everything's okay. You don't feel that stress anymore being down there. So I think it's good.
Thank you. Further discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor?
Oh,
Opposed?
did you want to talk, Bill?
Opposed, Councillor Rogers, Councillor Javetkov. Thank you. 9.4, bulk water rates. And this, as I've been reviewing and anticipating the review of the water rates for the city that we've asked administration to do later this year, one of the things that I kind of come through in terms of the two pieces of our bylaw, in terms of our water resale bylaw as well as the water bylaw itself, is our water rate to our resident and Poos is $1.68 a cube. Our water rate to our rural resident is $2.90 a cube. And we have definitions around what, in the water resale bylaw, what the rates apply to for domestic use and non-domestic. And then there's a surcharge that applies to non-domestic use, and the definition of that is in the bylaw. And so to me, we're going to review those rates this year in terms of how and what is our utility self-funding? Is it meeting its requirements that it's required to for us under the community charter? But the surcharge that we apply of $1.60 for non-domestic use applies, and we've applied it and interpreted it as applying to those uses that were for industrial uses. So in the past, when we were selling lots of potable water for industrial uses, we applied the $1.60 to that surcharge to the $2.90 rate to get it to $4.50 for those companies that were allowed to resell it for that purposes. But to me, the gap that exists within that interpretation is the commercial use. And so the utility rates are, with the rates and the infrastructure charges that our residents pay or other residents pay for that, is intended for that domestic use, and it's defined as domestic under household. But the commercial uses for large volumes of commercial product, commercial water, that puts even more and additional demands on our system to produce it, they don't pay any infrastructure charge, and they're not paying the $1.60 surcharge for it, which I think should be applicable. And so for those large volumes like camps or commercial uses that take big volumes of water out of our system, but pay the same as a residential customer from the rural area, and they pay exactly the same rate for that water, and I think they're putting more demand on our system, and I think that $1.60 surcharge should apply for that non-domestic use as it relates to that definition of it's not household use, it's commercial use. And so that's why I provided it to council, and I think I would like to have administration review that and bring it back to council for consideration, because it is in the bylaw today, and I think it should be applied, and we should be paying that $1.60 surcharge to those large volume commercial customers. Councillor Roger.
I agree. There's one thing that we kind of missed out a little bit there as well, as we've talked about, it takes care of the repairs and maintenance of that facility, but as we talked about in the truck waste facility, it doesn't take care of the replacement of that facility. So that water treatment plant eventually, years down the road, will have to be replaced, and I think that that's something that we need to be looking at. And also with the commercial rate being where it is, that needs to be looked at and readjusted.
Yeah. As an example, the non-commercial rate, the non-domestic use rate for our neighbors in Fort St. John, as an example, I think is $8.50 or $9. Grand Prairie's $10, and we set at $2.90. And certainly, I don't disagree, and I think the water review, the rate review that finance will do in the water rates will ensure that the rates we charge, both rates as well as infrastructure charges, will look after the utility to take into consideration tangible capital assets of all of that stuff. But there's a gap in here in terms of commercial use for non-domestic use, in my opinion. And if I need council's approval to have administration bring that back to council for review of the bylaw for that interpretation. Duncan?
So through your worship, you just mentioned it. This would be it would be a bylaw update, although the language is unclear in the existing bylaw. Just the precedent and how we've applied it, and the report that actually accompanied this bylaw identified that non-domestic bulk water rate using an example of fracking and as a use of non-domestic. So we would have to update that definition through the bylaw. And just something to note, and the truck waste facility is an excellent example of looking at those fees and building in all of those other costs. We have an onus within a local government to provide a report upon request respecting how the fee was determined. This is through the community charter, in order to determine that it's not an indirect tax and we're not just creating a fee. So we would be looking at that quantity and the amount that's withdrawn at once and that additional pressure on the system, as opposed to maybe a commercial truck hauling 3 cubes as opposed to the 12 or more that are going out for this use. So we would have to look at that, and we would have to provide a report in justifying why that fee is in place.
As I say, to me, the interpretation of non-domestic use is there. In my view, in my opinion, it's clear. Non-household use. We have a surcharge that we can apply to non-domestic use within the bylaw. And I think it's commercial and it should be applied because it's putting big volumes on our system that isn't being recouped like a residential customer who's only taking small volumes that rate of $2.90 is intended to recover. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Councillor Schumann, second to Councillor McFadden. Discussion. So we're going to ask administration to bring back a review of the non-domestic surcharge for council's consideration. Within the existing bylaw?
We would need to
Change the bylaw.
review the bylaw and possibly change the bylaw.
Thank you. Councillor Jabekov?
So is this over and above our review, or is it something that you want to implement it right away, or?
I think it's in there, in my view, my opinion, it's in there, and we can make the changes immediately to it. I don't want to wait for the water rate review bylaw,
Okay.
because it could take time to do that, and I think, to me, this is one that's in there that we should be addressing.
I don't disagree with it. I think this whole water business, I think there's a lot of things, a lot of costs, indirect or not indirect costs, or direct costs eventually, but I think that we've missed in the past. We've tried to get a rate that reflects everything, but I don't believe we have. I think there's a lot of things now that, you know, that I've seen come up as far as costs that haven't been considered in our water rates, especially the, you know, the bulk non-domestic. I mean, the $4.50 a cube, when you compare it to other municipalities in the area, like we're missing something. We haven't considered all of the costs somehow. We're, you know, and like you say, if we have to justify the costs, like how does Grand Prairie justify the costs? How does Fort St. John justify the costs?
Exactly.
Duncan, then Councillor Rogers?
So, through your worship, the model that we use for the truck waste facility will be a model that we're using moving forward. That model included not only the construction cost, but the replacement cost. It included admin, I believe it was 15%. It included the operational, and it included, I think, 1.7 million in maintenance, and all of that amortized with inflation over 30 years. So we're looking at those life cycle costs. We're looking at replacement. That'll be the model that we use moving forward in order to capture all of the things you've identified.
8 years since we reviewed the water rate bylaw, and I think it's appropriate and timely that we do that, and exactly that, take into consideration the full sum of operations in terms of how we deliver services and what are the impacts on not only the cost of those services, but the taxation of supporting some of those things. Councillor Rogers?
Here's a cost that really scares me. We have a water line that goes from the Kiskatna to the water treatment plant. U.S. military put that line in. That's a significant cost for a replacement. We're going back to, and going back to, like we were talking about, the bulk sewage thing, replacement cost. We got to really start thinking about the replacement cost of that line. Then there's a weak link in that whole distribution system, and that's the pipe that leaves the water treatment plant. That pipe itself is very old, and in my opinion, we're looking at replacing that soon as well. I'd like to ask staff, am I right or am I wrong?
That's exactly why we want to do the water review, or the water rate review, because it's been 8 years since it's been reviewed, and times are changing.
Yeah.
Duncan?
Pipes are older.
Yeah, so, through your worship, opportune time, just for an update, something council's heard me talk about is this 10-year capital plan and taking a look at this planning initiative. So we're working our way through that right now. Although it's general capital and we haven't got into the sewer or the water yet, we are looking at all of those aspects. And as part of this project, we're looking at funding strategies. So council will recall the master drainage plan came forward and $30 million, I think it was, in drainage work. And so really, in creating this 10-year plan, it gives us some context, and it also allows us to start planning for how we're going to fund some of these things, whether it be roads or drainage, and whether we need to look at new infrastructure charges, look at new DCCs, look at some debt. And we'll have that context, and again, that's something I hope to have in November.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. That's it for me under Mayor's business.
Oh,
Oh,
We had delegation.
oh, the delegation. And so what I'd like to ask is if we can direct staff to bring back a report on our meeting on August 20th for consideration and discussion. Duncan?
Sorry, so through your worship, the only concern I have with that date is if council wanted to form an agreement with the regional district. I think opt-in, and then there's opt-out, but if you want to form an agreement, you're giving us 11 days essentially to hammer that out and get approval.
I think honestly, we've never dealt with this in 4 years. I think we have a report for council to have a fulsome discussion about it. And then, because to give a direction today, and there's a whole bunch of aspects to it
Yep.
that you need to provide, I think, to council before we say, yeah, we're in or we're out. I would prefer that we do it on August 20th, and if council then make the decision, then we can make that decision moving forward in determination for the 2019 year. The budget is set for the PRRD in terms of that, and it's that budget that's impacted, not our budget. It's the requisition for our residents to the PRRD that's impacted by it. Councillor Javetkov, then Councillor Wilbur.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some merit to what they were talking about. I guess, from my perspective, I'd like to see why do we want, or why would we want, and I don't know, maybe there are reasons, that we would want to be involved with a decision, say in Chatwind or Hudson Hope or Charlie Lake.
Yeah.
If we can render it down to an area that's really applicable or has an impact on the city, and we can save money, then that makes sense to me. But I don't know all the details.
And that's why I think it's appropriate we have administration do a report to us. PRRD directors have given us their view in terms of why they feel it's appropriate for us to be in or partially in or out, and that view. But we don't have our administrations, and I think council need that before we start to direct it, because I wouldn't want us to respond and react without having that report from administration. Councillor Wilbur?
I was just going to move that, what your recommendation
Okay.
was to get staff to bring a report back
For August 20th.
for August 20th.
Yeah. Second, Councillor Schumann, discussion? Like I say, it's not critical that we're going to have a decision made by the end of August. We'll have the information and then provide that direction and council to understand it. And then if we're out, then we'll be out in 19. Duncan?
Through your worship, August 31st, 2018 is the end date for the 2019
Right.
budget. So
Yeah, I
if we
get
were
that.
out, it would be 2020.
Yeah. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Diary?
Nothing to update, your worship.
Consent calendar, we've got 3 or 4 items. Anything? Anybody? Councillor Schumann?
So I noticed within the diary, there's a letter from the Regional District of Bulkley-Nechako to the Honorable Catherine McKenna, Minister of Environment and Climate Change Canada. Is this something that perhaps all affected regional districts are doing? Is this something
The regional district have taken a real focus on this for the UBCM meetings and the minister meetings, and so as focused by all of us as communities represented within the PRRD, we're making a point of meeting with the Premier over the Caribou. We've got 3, I think, meetings that are all focused around the Southern Mountain Caribou with the various ministers, environment, forest lands, natural resources, Premier, and that's the big topic for the RD this year because it is so important. And so I think that's the really appropriate way, because we have the voice of the region, rather than each one of us trying to do that, and you pretty soon you lose the message within the ministry if you're all doing it. I think it's a really great way for all of us collectively to be sending that message to the Premier and the province, the ministers, that the caribou recovery is a big deal for us.
Yeah, and so the only reason I bring up that letter is hopefully our regional district is sending out something similar.
And they made a suggestion, and they made a motion, a recommendation that a delegation go to Ottawa.
Awesome.
So-
Okay, so I would move the consent calendar.
Thank you. Seconded? Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Strategic priorities? Anything new?
Nothing to update, Your Worship.
Media. Austin, come on up. I can tell you're itching. Good morning.
I'll break this thing. Did I just speak
Just
into?
speak into
Oh, okay, perfect. Just a quick question on the sign bylaw. I guess to Chief Administrative Officer as well as Councillor Wilbur, whoever could be speak to this. Just what changes have been made to the sign bylaw? I guess since the previous iteration, and what work has been done on. Like obviously it's simplified, obviously, but.
Sure. So through Your Worship, I would actually ask Alex. We've gone through a number of meetings with this, so if she could maybe summarize some of the bigger changes.
Just to clarify, are you talking about the original sign bylaw to now, or the one that we brought back for third reading?
I believe the one that we brought back for third reading.
So the only change that was made is that we added chloroplast sign as the temporary sign usage.
Okay.
Yes, so no changes.
Yeah. Now, if you're talking through Your Worship, if you're talking from the original bylaw, we added electronic signs. There were some changes in height, permitted height. We also talked about brightness. We talked about animation.
Okay.
Those are some of the changes from the original bylaw.
Yeah, I guess apologies for being unclear. I just was meaning in the sense of why approve it today compared to what was rescinded previously. Yeah.
Go ahead, Duncan.
So through Your Worship, there were some clarification questions that came
Yeah.
forward, and they were identified within the report. They talked about sight lines, talked about some of the height restrictions, and so really it was just some clarification of some of those areas, and then just that one change.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Austin. Anything further? Adjourn. Councillor Rogers, Councillor Schumann. Thank you.